So let's move on. One thing that I actually forgot to say when I did the delegate compound, which I think is really important, and I know Andy touched on it briefly, but I just wanted to reference something. So when we're delegating well, it's really important we have really clear processes how we do that. And I know, just because I know we talked about it before, one of the other things, one of the future workshops is about creating what we've called outstanding operations. That's where we create really brilliant systems so that when you delegate something, it happens consistently as well as you want it to every time. But that's a future workshop. So that's then about, okay, once you've identified what you want to delegate, how can you create systems so that it happens as well as you would want it to happen, and it happens that way every time. So hottest topic right now is clearly generative AI. It's all over everything to do with business. And one of the analogies I heard, which I really liked, given that I like running and I like cycling, was that, ultimately, if we've got a runner and a cyclist going along next to each other, they'll probably both get there. But ultimately, the idea is that the cyclist will get there much quicker. And that's because they're using a technology to move them forward more quickly. The fact that we're bringing generative AI into business now just means that is this is going to just go quicker and quicker and quicker. And we're essentially going to get to the point where one person can do 10 people's jobs because they're using AI well. And a term that I've heard thrown around a few times is, because there's a lot of talk about, are you going to lose your job to AI? And I'm not sure whether that's the biggest concern. But what you will definitely do is lose your job to somebody who can use AI. That's the thing that everyone's talking about, is if you're not using AI, but one of your competitors is, they're going to eat you up. And in fact, ultimately, you all know the story of Blockbuster and Netflix. Blockbuster had the opportunity to buy Netflix for a tiny amount of money. Can't even remember what it was, but it was a tiny amount of money. And they said, no, we don't need you. And Netflix ate Blockbuster for breakfast.
Interesting fact. Do you know that every stream on Netflix is made by AI?
Every
so background pictures that come those tiles are made by AI.
Are they?
And depending on your profile, sometimes change.
Different between different people. Interesting. Very interesting. Only for you. You like the word irreverent. One of the books I'm going to reference a few times is Scary Smart by Mo Gawdat. I don't know if any of you read this. Like, phenomenal books, really scary, like scary and really interesting. It's all about AI. Mo Gawdat used to be the what's his exact title? Very senior in Google anyway, and wrote a brilliant book called Solve for Happy. But he then wrote a second book, which is called Scary Smart. If you haven't heard of Mo Gawdat, the place to start is his interview on Diary of a CEO podcast. So Stephen Bartlett described it as the best interview he'd done at the time. I don't know whether he's subsequently done, but it is a brilliant interview. But Mo Gawdat talks about AI, and he talks about being in 2055, we'll all be sitting out in the middle of nowhere around a campfire. And he said it'll be either for one of two reasons. Either AI has taken all the mundane jobs and we live this amazing life of leisure and we can just chill out in the middle of nowhere just with campfires, or it's taken over the world and we've had to run away from it and hide in the woods with campfires. It'll be one or the other. The question is which way it goes. And he also talks about the difference between Einstein and a fly, because what he says is that by 2049, AI will be 1 billion times smarter than a human being, which is the equivalent of Einstein to a fly. So the question is, what stops Einstein squashing the fly? And so Scary Smart just tries to get your head around what this is, what is going to happen. Can anybody tell me who this is? Who?
Superman.
Oh, thank you. That's the answer I was looking for. I thought you would know, but I didn't even know you'd know her. That's his real name. Oh, thank you. Excellent. I knew that Nitesh would know baby Superman, but I didn't. So the final thing I'm going to share with you from Mo Gawdat is that he says that AI is like baby Superman. So when baby Superman landed on Earth, he landed with a caring farming family that taught him good values, and we ended up with a superhero as a result. But had he fallen into the hands of some East End gang in London, we'd have probably had a super villain on our hands. And ultimately, AI is very much at a very early development stage. So Mo Gawdat actually writes part of his book with a view to it being directed at the AI that's reading his book. And he's talking about how everyone needs to nurture AI. It's a really interesting book, really interesting take. But ultimately, AI is here, and it is the advancement is astonishing. So two very well-respected people in this space are Elon Musk, obviously, and a guy called Ray Kurzweil, who is a futurist. So Ray Kurzweil says that AI will be smarter than humans by 2029. Elon reckoned this was going to be 2025. We think about AI not being able to deal with emotions. We think about it being very much about information at this stage. That's not true. All the research and all of the technology at the moment is showing that actually AI can read your emotions and can start to act with emotions, whether that's face and voice. It's going to happen, and it's already happening. And so really, I think one of the books that I started to, or one of the books I read quite a while ago, looked at, well, what is AI? Where is AI going to take? By the way, every time I look at this screen, all I can see is Andy's filthy hands on my screen. I just, please, yeah, please stop touching my telly. Particularly when he banged it. Fucking fingerprints all over the place. Anyway, so ultimately, what will AI take? Well, it will take, we think it'll take, obviously, it's going to take the repetitive tasks. It's going to take the routine out. It'll then start taking optimizing. But the complex and creative, obviously, the coach is safe for the time being. But ultimately, that is where AI is going to go. Now, I read this book back in, I think, 2019. It came out. So I read it somewhere after that. It was predicting that 5 years' time, we'd be losing repetitive tasks and routine tasks. 10 years. This was way underplaying the situation. We're way ahead of the curve. But ultimately, the book of what it said is absolutely happening, but quicker. So then there's obviously certain roles that essentially, if we're talking about creativity or compassion, there's certain roles that will remain more resilient to AI for longer, but there's many roles that are going to get eaten up by AI very quickly. And one of the things that he talked about in that book, which I really liked, was essentially if we think about that compassion and creativity metric, then we start seeing, well, this is where humans plus AI, this is AI plus a bit of human, or AI with human, and ultimately the bottom left-hand corner is all going to be just swallowed up by AI. Clearly, ChatGPT has gone absolutely bonkers, probably the best first draft of any business or solution ever. Now, when I wrote this slide, I said that this is going to be connected to the internet later on this year. It already is. I was playing with it last night, connected to the web, and I'm going to share with you a couple of things that we did on that. But ChatGPT, smart enough to pass the bar exam, the medical exam, the business exams. GPT-4 is passing way more exams and at more than 75% for those exams, which is way better than the average human. And the diagnosis of, the AI diagnosis in medical situations is way better than humans in way less time. So it is astonishing. I don't know if you saw this South Park clip, but this made me laugh.
I was just grading these stupid papers all the time. I have to read them all and comment on each one of them. Something's changed, and now a few of the kids are writing these really long, detailed essays.
Have you ever heard of ChatGPT? There's a few apps now, really. But see, it has AI and takes any subject matter and can instantly give you whatever kind of content you want.
There's an app that anyone can use that does all the thinking and writing for you?
Yeah.
Well, this is going to be amazing. I can use it to grade all my papers and no one will ever know.
But it's going absolutely crazy. It is going to completely shake up the education world as well as the business world. I think you shared some stats last week, Nitesh. So in terms of how quickly it took to get to 1 million users, Netflix took 3.5 years, Facebook took 10 months, Instagram took 2.5 months, ChatGPT took 5 days, but it was 100 million users in 2 months. And it is absolutely astonishing how, and obviously the number of AI bots that are being born out of this are incredible. One of the things that I think that we should be doing for every meeting that we're in is having ChatGPT open, because this is like having a guru sitting in the room with you. That if, let's say, you're brainstorming an idea about a business name or a business plan or a marketing strategy, you should be bringing ChatGPT into that conversation. ChatGPT 4, by the way, you have to pay, I think, $20 a month for it, but I have been using that, and it is definitely significantly better than the free version. But also the guys I was listening to yesterday were like, for so many different things, it is a lot better. So it is worth paying for that. But it's also therefore like having Elon Musk sitting on your leadership meeting, in your meeting, because you can say to ChatGPT, what would Elon Musk call this product? And it'll start giving you ideas based on what Elon would come up with. Obviously, for creativity, it's incredibly powerful. I think I might have shared with you on the learning lunch. I got my I got ChatGPT to write a poem for my uncle's funeral. Not because I didn't have the content. I had the content. I just didn't have the poetic creativity skills to turn it into a poem. But ChatGPT did, and that was the free version, did an incredible job of that. Charlotte said to me about a week ago, you didn't ever write up the Ironman whales for your blog. Could you do that? 7 months ago. It's quite difficult to be motivated to do it. So all I did was I wrote a series of bullet points about that race, and then it turned it into a proper article for me that had far better narrative than I would have put into it had I taken twice as long as it took me to do it that way. So turning small amounts of content into much better, much more crafted content is incredibly powerful, certainly from a marketing point of view. What I hadn't realized is until last night how quickly we can get it to do that, and I'll come back to that in a second. One of the other things that I've started doing with it is using it for book summaries, particularly for books that I read historically. Like, okay, how can I get I want to remind myself of the key principles of the E-Myth, for example, which I read probably 20 years ago. But not only that, what action steps should a small business owner take from the E-Myth? So it's like not just the book summary. You can find a book summary of the E-Myth on Google, but you could say, what business steps should a business coaching business take based on the lessons of the E-Myth? And you're like, holy crap, I've now got like a really powerful way of going back and recapping books that I read 20 years ago in minutes.
Blinkist and
Yeah, I can believe that, because Blinkist actually didn't work for me. So when I used Blinkist, by the way, is a very short version of an audio. It's an audio version of an audio book, but a short version. But even when I'd read the book, the only thing Blinkist worked for me was, do I want to read this book?
That's how.
Yeah. And so if you listen to the Blinkist and you go, this sounds quite interesting, I'll actually listen to the book. But going back and listening to one that you've already listened to, it didn't generate the ideas. For me, it didn't work so well. But yes, I can absolutely see that. One of the recommendations of Abundance 360 is that every business should have a chief AI officer. Now, it might be that you are the chief AI officer in your business to start with, but every business needs to have their finger on the pulse of what's going on with AI because it is changing so quickly. One of the other systems that needs to be in place is using the AI more effectively for or either as your EA or VA or for your EA or PA, because this stuff can turn one person into the productivity of 5 people if they're using it effectively. Whether that's, for example, one of the apps that we were using yesterday on the call was otter.ai, which works very similar to the fireflies.ai that you were using. But what was brilliant was they're stacking that live, and when somebody asks them a question, instead of going, right, okay, let me ask ChatGPT, I'm going to type it, they just go copy, paste, done. So they've taken the audio that Otter's transcribed from the meeting, put it straight into ChatGPT, hit go, and then they've got ChatGPT's answer. It is absolutely insane what you can do with this stuff. And so one of the things I think you need to do is think about, how is this technology going to disrupt your industry? And how can you get a competitive advantage in your sector over your competitors through using this technology? And do you know the best way to find out? Ask it. So the first thing you should be doing when you get home tonight is, how is AI going to impact my sector? And what can I do with AI that can give me a competitive advantage? Because the answers it gives you are bloody brilliant. We did it for Accelerate, didn't we? And it gave us some brilliant starting points. So where is AI going to make the biggest impact? Well, automation, whether it's self-driving cars or whether it's just following processes. We've looked at something that we're looking at in Accelerate. Can we automate that process to make, from the minute that the existing investment company sends in the information, can we automate turning that piece of information into a recommendation in a letter? That would be absolutely incredible. Customer service. Clearly, customer service is something that's being done more and more. And actually, I got a cold call from AI the other day, and I actually asked it whether it was AI, and it kept skipping over the question. It's like, I'm definitely but I had to. I wasn't sure. I thought at one stage I'm going to look like a real twat when I ask this person if he's a bot, because it repeated when I asked sort of question in a different way, it repeated the same question. I was like, this feels too. No, this definitely was a bot. But to start with, I wasn't absolutely sure. Clearly, data analysis, I talked about TriDot as a coaching platform earlier on. And the reason that works so well in triathlon, for example, but they're actually TriDot are creating RunDot for it, which is a run version of it. It says these things and everything else is generating so much data that no human can digest that data and do stuff with it. But the AI, that's exactly what the AI needs to do. It needs to take this data, whether that's the data of your client base, for example. I mean, like something like Roythorns would have phenomenal amounts of data on clients, and AI can give you incredible insights into that and opportunities. Personalization, turning documents or products or videos into things that are specific to the consumer. Predictive analytics. I'm going to skip through some of these more quickly so that we can get going. Content generation, we talked a bit about that. We know that content generation is one of the massive advantages of generative AI. Helping you come up with product ideas, product development, naming products, all of that stuff. Anything that, and actually I'm going to come back to the naming of it in a second. Risk management is one of the key things that it's going to help us with. Employee hiring and retention. I think it won't be long before, particularly for bigger firms, AI will have done 99% of the CV analysis, and you'll get, here's the 3 CVs from the 500 that applied. And it will take so much of that away. One of the biggest challenges for business owners and professionals in practice is, I've heard it said before, that people need to clone themselves. They've got too much work to do for them. And obviously that's one of the reasons why you're trying to delegate stuff away, but ultimately you really want to clone yourself. With AI, that's actually possible. So Tony Robbins is in the process of cloning himself through AI. He's already done presentations as a hologram on stages. But when that's an actual AI bot that is delivering his presentation and can answer the questions in the way that Tony would answer them, That is incredible. And you can do this yourself. There's personalized.ai that can start to help you create your own version of yourself. And so it might be that, you know, personalized.ai version of Nitesh pops up on the website and is, yeah. I don't reckon it'll be long. But here, so I didn't realize that GPT could be connected to the web until yesterday. So if you go into the beta settings, you can turn on browsing the web. Then what you can do is you can go, right, okay, you can give it specific websites to look at. So I got it to go to the Trusted Team website and say, right, give me ideas as to how we can improve the Trusted Team website. And sure enough, there's a whole load of ways, Nitesh, that email will be in your inbox tomorrow, how we can improve the website.
You know what's funny? This is exactly what we're sending out next week.
Really?
We're sending it for free just to say, look, here are things we never have the time to do, going through every client. So here's some recommendations, tell us what you think should do.
Yeah. And then we've just drilled down into one of those and said, well, I just picked one of those and go, give me 5 specific actions that you could take. So I pick call to action, and there you go. Got a load of advice that is generating that. There was something else I was going to say with regards to that. What you can then do is you can then say, write me. Oh no, I'll come back to it. I've got it in a future slide actually. Another thing with regards to the Triathlon podcast, I wanted to transcribe all the previous episodes and then get that content filtered down to create, like, for example, out of 100 episodes, or episode 85. So by the end of this season, we'll be at 100 episodes. Out of 100 episodes, what are the common themes around nutrition, for example? And I want to turn that into one chapter of a book. So the nutrition chapter is based on the wisdom of 100 different top endurance athletes. But I was struggling to get this to work in ChatGPT because the text was too long. Summarize.tech is one way you can do that. You can just plug the URL of that video on YouTube into summarize.tech, and it will give you a summary of that whole conversation. But actually, even better, I found to be VoxScript, which is a plugin for ChatGPT. So you add that as a plugin, and then you can basically just paste the link in, and it will give you a. So this is the summary of the conversation that we had with Tom Evans, who's a top ultra runner. And so if you read this, Claire, does this ring any bells? Like, Tom Evans emphasized the importance of listening to your body rather than relying on technology, like heart rate variability. And so this is all the advice that an endurance athlete should take from that podcast. So immediately that can be going into an email to all of the Triathlon followers going, if you want to listen to this episode, here's the takeaways from it. No work done at all. We can also get the whole transcription if we want, but actually, do we want the whole transcription? What we want is this summary, and we want 100 of these summaries, and then we can actually nail that down into the common themes within it. That to me is absolutely awesome, and we are definitely going to be doing that. I don't know if, did I mention Udemy on the Learning Lunch? I can't remember. So Udemy is a website where you can buy courses. So 2 reasons to mention this. One is, if you want to train your people on AI and you want to learn more about AI, for $10.99, you can buy an 11-hour course on ChatGPT plus 25 powerful AI tools and how to use it. So for £11, you can teach your whole team how to make the most of AI and make everyone 10 times more productive than they currently are. Oh, wait, I don't know if that's legal, but yeah, that's fine. But the other thing is, so that's one thing. So one thing is, you want to learn how to use this stuff. Udemy, great source. Second thing is, Udemy, I don't know why I didn't find this when we were doing financial planning, but there's loads of financial planning courses on Udemy. but you can be building your courses on financial planning or whatever it is you do. Stick it on Udemy. You've got basically people paying you to be marketed to. But clearly, you've got to deliver a good course. But this is where that framework will come in beautifully. And you might not have the time to do this. So what you could do is you could say, right, okay, Vox script, look at my, ChatGPT, look at from the Trusted Team website, write me a 3-minute script on promoting this business, which is what I did. And then I put it into Synthesia.
Are you an entrepreneur or professional who is overwhelmed by the constant challenges of your business? Is your work-life balance off? Do you yearn to connect with professionals who share your interests in meaningful ways? Introducing the Trusted Team, a coaching and networking program specifically tailored to your needs. I'm
not going to go through the whole thing, but I know that's why I picked them. Yeah, I had to search a long time to find that. But isn't that like literally? I asked ChatGPT to create the script. I pasted the script into Synthesia, and a minute later, I have and essentially you could do that. Like I could take the Dream Retirement, plug it into Synthesia, and I've got a whole course that I can upload to Udemy. That's probably is an 11-hour course. And it's done in. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. And of course, the content could have been from you actually just talking it into otter.ai. You're going to need it to be refined a little bit. But again, how are you going to refine it? ChatGPT, paste it into ChatGPT, get it to turn it into proper structure. You want to write a book? Ask ChatGPT for the structure of that book. You want to write a framework? So this is what I was coming back to. So I was like, well, we should be using this for our framework formula. Like, forget going and using the bloody thesaurus and the Scrabble word finder that I know you probably still is probably a blend of both. But I basically went to it and said, right, okay, create me an acronym based around these 6 principles. You can use as many of the words that I've put in as possible, but you can use your own. Again, this took me 30 seconds to produce the AI Trust, my new framework. Now, it's not great, but it took me 30 seconds, whereas historically it would have taken me a good hour or 2 to create. So you can use this technology to create so much for you. And you might go into it and you go, so these were my original words. No, maybe not actually, I can't remember. And what you might do is you might ask it, you might go back to it and say, well, I really don't like to use the word thought, or, I think, I can't remember whether I asked it to build it around. Yeah, I think I actually specified I wanted it on the word trust. So that's making it really difficult. It's really difficult to create reverse create the acronym from a word. But guess what? Trusted Team seems to tie in nicely. Or did I just say? I think actually I said a word that relates to the Trusted Team, or I can't remember how I asked it. But this, to me, is just an opportunity to create so much in a fraction of the time that it would have taken you historically. So I want to get you thinking about how you can do that in your business. So we're going to go through the AI Advanced, which essentially, and I've tried to make you think about this slightly differently by asking you, how would your evil twin use AI to disrupt your industry or business going forward? And how can AI give you a competitive advantage right now? Now, even better, ask ChatGPT this when you get home. Who can be my AI officer, the person that I continually consult with? I wrote Nitesh here because I knew he was going to be in the room. And then how can I use AI to help me in each of these different areas of the business? I've given you some examples up there, which I appreciate are quite small writing, so you won't be able to read them. But I'll give you a bit of time to think about how you can use AI to fast track your business.